If I were to ask you who Sonic's rival was, who would you say? Of course you have your obvious answers, like Shadow, Knuckles, Silver maybe? Jet the Hawk, Surge, Scourge?
Alright, I get it!
However, I feel there is one that tends to stand out above the rest, and was most likely many of yours first answers as well. I'm of course talking about Metal Sonic. First appearing in Sonic CD, Metal takes the role as the secondary antagonist for the game, as one of Eggman's countless inventions. But there's something that makes him more unique when compared to the other Batniks, with him being a robotic version of Sonic. I know, really pointing at the obvious. But what you might not have known is that Metal is in fact not the first robotic version of Sonic to appear in the series. In fact, he was predated by not just one, but two Sonic doppelgangers. Talk about being a faker. Wait, no. That's what Shadow said. So the joke doesn't actually make any sense anymore. I should apologize. With the series actually having quite a few robotic Sonics, but today I wanted to go over one line in particular that I believe does not get nearly enough attention by both the fandom and Sega themselves. Despite making pretty common appearances in the mainline games for a good while, and arguably even playing a pretty major role at one point, with that being Mecha Sonic. Mecha Sonic? Mecha Sonic.
Are there any other Squidwards I should know about?
Meow.
Unlike Metal, who for the most part is meant to be the same character in all of his iterations, with the occasional minor tweak here and there, every version of Mecha Sonic seems to be fully separated from one another. So before I can talk about the Mecha Sonic, I want to give a brief history on the many versions that both predate and follow him. So today I'm going to talk about Mecha Sonic. I hope y'all enjoy.
64 bits, 32 bits,
16 bits, 8 bits, 4 bits, 2 bits, 1 bit!
With the first appearance of Mecha Sonic being the 8-bit version of Sonic 2, releasing a few weeks before the much more popular 16-bit version, we get to see Sega's first attempt at a robot Sonic. And how did they do? I love him. Mecha's first design is simply so unique, especially when compared to those that will follow him, with most being these strong, intimidating, threatening characters, whereas with Mecha, we actually get to see one that's meant to be more silly, whimsical even. They're also one of the very few that actually have a mouth, and instead of having something like razor-sharp teeth, he just has a dopey smile always plastered across his face, with so much charm just oozing from a pretty simple design. I'd also like to point out his other design details, like his jetpack, claw arms, and visor, giving him a very fun, seemingly 80s inspired design. And I don't know if you could tell, but I'm quite fond of the aesthetic. But following this game, we only get to see a few minor appearances from him, with his last big appearance only being a minor portion of Metal Sonic's boss fight in Mania, which was nice to see, with it finally giving us a good look at the character in the 16-bit style. But other than a few appearances in the comics, he has for the most part been forgotten. And before we move on, we actually have to talk about the names of these characters for a second, because now we have to talk about Mecha Sonic Mark I. So if this is Mecha Sonic Mark I, then who is this? Well, I've seen quite a few places simply refer to them as Mecha Sonic or Mecha Sonic Mark II, with the most popular and seemingly most widely used name being Silver Sonic. But I've also seen Mark I also be called Silver Sonic, which definitely didn't make researching this video extremely difficult, especially because it's not like there's another popular character in the series also named Silver or anything like that. Nevertheless, for the sake of this video, I'm calling this one Silver Sonic and this one Mecha Mark I. And if you disagree with that, you can just leave. No one's making you watch the video. You can go. I feel like this confusion most likely stems from the fact these two characters were being developed around the same time, and with the both of them playing the same role in each version of what's technically meant to be the same game, we can assume they were probably meant to be the same character at one point. However, that's obviously no longer the case, with them being very different from one another, and we can best see these differences once we take a look at their design, with Mark I having a very bulky, fully metallic look, with one glowing red eye. He also has a saw blade meant to mirror Sonic's quills. It's another overall really good design, and to me reminds me a lot of, well, Iron Man's Mark I suit. With them both being very clunky and mostly being made out of steel, They're also both meant to be the first attempts at these machines, which will be improved on and changed over time. Eggman was able to build this in a cave! With a box of scraps! Also, unlike Silver, Mark I actually shows up quite a few times throughout the series, while still mostly being stuck to small cameos, such as in the LEGO Dimensions with the name Robosonic, which isn't helping with the whole naming issues once again. But more recently, he appeared in Sonic Superstars, which gave us a good look at the character in 3D. Speaking of 3D, one might say Sonic had a rough transition into 3D. Oh, wrong image. Let me just... Sorry about that. Wrong type of transition. This is where we get our last Mecha Sonic in the series. Appearing in Sonic Adventure, we're introduced to Mecha Sonic Mark III. But some of you might not even know who this is, because for whatever reason, he's basically just a robot in a tube, with Metal having the same fate in this game. But while he would eventually become an actual character when Sonic Adventure 2 rolled around, Mark III, however, was quickly and quietly swept under the rug, with him arguably being the most forgotten Mecha Sonic in the series. So forgotten that even in Mecha Sonic discussions, he's rarely brought up, being more of a footnote in the line rather than anything else. Which is upsetting considering how interesting his design is, being very similar to Mark I's design in many ways, but was seemingly just scrapped, ending the Mecha line on a sort of bitter note. But that's not the end, because now we have to talk about the one that I've yet to mention so far. It's time to talk about the Mecha Sonic.
Yo, I'm really sorry, okay?
What is wrong with you? Why are you blue?
Being introduced in Sonic & Knuckles, Mecha Sonic Mark II plays a much larger role in comparison to his other counterparts, getting 4 entire boss fights in this game alone, having a total of 3 in the Sonic storyline, and taking main stage as the antagonist of Knuckles' story. And not just that, he is the first enemy in the series to use the power of the Master Emeralds.
You mean the Chaos Emeralds? Chaos Control! Oh my God!
There's a reason he's sort of seen as the face of the Mecha Sonic line, especially because unlike Metal, who was seemingly made to be on par with Sonic, Mark II was truly meant to surpass him, and nowhere is that more clear than in his design, both sharing similarities with its previous models, but also with Metal himself. With him getting the one eye that seems to be an essential detail for the Mecha line, but now dropping the more clunky design, making him much more smooth and sharing this aerodynamic look with Metal. And most importantly, he's finally blue! He also now towers over Sonic, making him feel like a true threat. And while unsaid in game, it seems to imply he's potentially pretty intelligent as well, with 2 of his boss fights using Eggman's former inventions. It was as if Mark II was Eggman's magnum opus, and he could possibly be the one who could finally beat that dastardly hedgehog. Sorry about that. And now with the full power of the Master Emerald, he's virtually unstoppable. But in that fight, he lost. And not even to the one he was meant to surpass. And as Angel Island collapses, and Knuckles escapes, we never see him again. Another one of Eggman's failures, to eventually be forgotten. Like Icarus, he flew too close to the sun, only to fall. With him only ever having a few minor appearances here and there, he never truly returned. So why am I talking about him? Well, we'll get to that, but first we have to talk about some non-official Sonic media. Let's talk about a little series by the name Super Mario Bros. Z. I promise this is very important.
I'll crush you! I'll crush you!
Super Mario Bros. Z was an animated web series started in 2006, created by Alvin Earthworm. It was a show that made up a big part of mine, and most likely many of your childhoods as well. But if not, let me explain. To put it simply, it was a Flash animated series using a mix of both Mario and Sonic characters, with heavy inspiration from Dragon Ball Z, if the name didn't make that clear already. And despite the fact I was an illiterate child, which meant I didn't actually understand what was going on half the time, I still knew I was experiencing what is known in the film world as cinema. And while I would love to go much more in depth into it, for this video that's all you really need to know. But the reason I mention this series is because it was my first introduction to Mecha Sonic, being the main antagonist for the series, and if you've seen any scene with him in it, you would understand why it captivated the mind of me and many other children and grown-ups alike, with every appearance of him exemplifying how cool of a character he is. And if that wasn't enough, he also has a line so iconic that I was genuinely surprised to learn this was something completely original to the series. simply can't articulate into words the amount of love I have for this character in the series. And despite the fact Mecha hasn't appeared in a Sonic game for over 30 years, unless you want to count a Roblox game or Minecraft. But there is one way a lot of these characters still remain even after being practically forgotten by the games. Unfortunately, it requires reading. I know. Remember earlier how I said Mecha Sonic never returned? I lied. Scrapnik Island is a 4-issue series from the Sonic IDW comics, where we see what happened to Mecha after the events of Sonic and Knuckles. And maybe I'm letting my bias for the character show, but God, this might be one of the best comics I've ever read. And while I will be going over it here, I'd still recommend all of you go read it yourself. You can find links to it in the description of this video. But with that out of the way, let's look at issue 1 of Scrapnik Island. We open with Sonic and Tails on the tornado in the middle of a storm. As they look around, they find the dilapidated death egg. Sorry, I mean an alive egg. My bad. And as they begin to approach it, they're struck down by lightning and start spinning out of control, ultimately crashing. As Sonic awakes, he quickly finds out he has some metal scraps stuck to his foot. And after finding Tails' tablet, he limps around the seemingly empty death egg, eventually coming across a flower. But I'm sure that'll hold no real importance to the story. He then finds the egg carrier, and as he does, a Batnik crawls out from a crack. But there's something wrong, with it being revealed to be a hybrid of Batniks, as more start to surround him until... And Sonic starts to remember his battle with Mecha, where we actually get to see him in his prime. And it's so pleasing to see official art of him, especially because this was basically the first time we got to see this. And this is an especial thanks to the art of Jack Lawrence, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced this, Natalie Fordrain, really making every aspect of both his character and the story just look absolutely stunning. But I'm getting off track. Sonic tries to escape, but with the machine still stuck to his foot, he decides to hide in a capsule. But after trying to escape once again, he finds Tails, as he quickly learns the Batniks don't intend to harm them, and we're introduced to E117 Sigma. I don't know, seems more like a beta to me. And then we're formally introduced to the Scrapnik Island. The title, that's the title, And as Tails enjoys the sights of the island, Mecha and Sonic get to reminisce. And then we see him start to malfunction. And that's where issue 1 ends. As you saw, that was in fact Mecha Knuckles. And while I won't be going into him for this video, all you really need to know is that he's basically Robot Knuckles, which is different than Metal Knuckles, which at this point I'm gonna have to make a whole nother video on the subject. But let's just ignore that for now, and move on to issue 2. We begin in a flashback, as we see Sigma help repair the many destroyed Batniks. And slowly, they start to build their own little community from the rubble. As we return to Sonic, we see Tails use his device to make a translator, so they can now understand the many Batniks on the island. With Sigma returning, we learn while their plane will be easy to fix, they face the issue of needing a new generator, with the only other one being somewhere in the Death Egg. And with Tails staying behind to work on the plane, it leaves Sonic, Sigma, and Mecha to make their way back into the ship. They stop, and we see Mecha tend the flower from before. We learn that it randomly washed ashore one day, and ever since, Mecha has been taking care of it. Sigma explains why the island may be their home. They do still hope to leave it one day, to no longer live under the shadow of their maker, and truly be free. They then find themselves back to the scrambled egg carrier. As they search, Sonic tries to befriend Mecha after realizing that he's really grown a lot since their last encounter, sticking his hand out to him. And as it almost seems to work...
Mecha Knuckles? Oh, come on! Just how many robot doubles do you guys have stashed up around here? No offense. Ooh! By Jove, I do believe I have located it. Gears and starters!
Ah, I see you've met Mecha Knuckles. Quite the spirited fellow, eh?
Not the word I'd use. What's his problem? Why is he trying to bash my brains in?
Mecha Knuckles' original Eggman directive compels him to defend the Master Emerald Shrine on Angel Island from intruders. They were so deeply embedded into his programming that I was unable to fully remove them. So I diverted his protective instincts to guarding the scrambled egg carrier instead.
Ah, so he's a blockhead. Just like the real deal. Got it.
Stand down, lad. Sonic is our friend.
Whoa!
Ha, you might look scary, but you're actually trash. I'll bash your brains in, blockhead. What do you say?
Ho ho ho! At long last, you are complete, Mecha Sonic. Your greatest creation to date. Trash! 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 Trash!
As Mecha comes out of his hallucination, he makes fast work of Mecha Knuckles, before pointing his rage at someone else. Issue 3 opens with Sonic being strapped down, with Mecha seeming to be planning something, with a single Batnik seeing this from behind, as it runs off to tell the others. We see Mecha as he boots up the first time since his battle on Sky Sanctuary. After being repaired, Sigma guides him around, and we see him quickly make this place home. Sigma awakes, seeing the destruction of Mecha Knuckles. He already knows what has happened. The Batnik shows Tails and the others what's happening, so Tails suits up, and he and the others decide to go in to save Sonic. They eventually find Sigma, and he tells them Mecha's system is very robust, with even him not fully understanding his software. Even with him trying to rewrite Eggman's code, it never seemed to fully work. But even still, he wanted to help him because he knows deep down, there's still good within him. Mecha makes himself known, and with that, they're now in pursuit. We learn from Tails even with his rust and swapped out parts, he still seems to be just as fast as Sonic. So he starts planning, but it's too late. He took down the others, leaving them in a one-on-one. He starts to tell Tails how he was once Eggman's most remarkable invention, and even after being rebuilt, he waited for his master's return. But he soon realized he was abandoned by his own creator, and now he has a plan in motion. He offers to let Tails go for one thing in return, his tablet. But Tails stands his ground, and while he puts up a good fight, Mecha gets what he wants, before throwing Tails away. And as he returns to Sonic, we see our first glimpse at his plan. Issue 4 is the last in this quadrilogy. As Badniks watch from above, Mecha explains the device strapped on Sonic was once one of Eggman's inventions, meant to give him the ability to control the Badniks himself, but it was scrapped before ever being complete. Another failure. But Mecha saw its potential, with him planning to use it to swap minds with the one he was built in the image of, Sonic himself, planning to use him as a means to escape, using his speed to run across the water to freedom. But Sonic questions him, what about his friends? But he tells him that friendship is a weakness, even trying to convince himself, that they weren't his friends. Sonic tries to argue, but it's too late. As the mind transfer starts, it is soon stopped by the other Batniks, and the lab explodes.
It's gone. It's all gone. All my work. Now I'll never get off this island. You ruined everything. I'll crush you!
He said the thing! He said the thing! Sonic gets up. He realizes he hears another voice in his head. And before Mecha could hurt an innocent Batnik, the two start to fight, with him racing down the hall.
Ugh, it's like my ankle's being stabbed by 1,000 needles. Keep it together, Sonic. One foot in front of the other. Keep moving forward. Fight through the pain.
Pain. Pain. What do you know about pain?
There's that voice again. Is it you?
What you're feeling right now is nothing compared to what I've endured. You've never been cast aside and robbed of your value, your purpose.
Did that helmet thing link our brains?
You may have bested me the last time we fought, but not this time. You're all alone. You're out of options. And you're wounded. You've reached your limit.
Ah, but see, that's the thing about limits. They're meant to be broken. You're wide open. Grab a hold of my hand.
Your freedom is inevitable, Sonic. To explore the world at your leisure, unhindered by regret or failure. It must be nice. Leave me. This is what I deserve. My original Eggman directive destroys Sonic the Hedgehog mission failure. My new Sigma directive protect the Scrapniks mission failure. I am a failure. I am worthless. I am trash.
Cut that crap, will ya? You give yourself value and purpose. No one else. You gotta live for you. That's what it really means to be free. Now, take my hand. Ugh. Oh.
What's the matter?
I, think I might have overdid it with my foot. I can't move it at all.
All that big talk and you can't even actually get us out of here?
Hey, I'm working on it, alright? Tails!
Told you should have sat back and rested. Now, Sigma. Affirmative. Come on, everybody, pool! Your forgiveness is requested, Mecha. This unit was unaware of your inner turmoil. Sonic, are you...
Nah. These aren't my tears.
After being repaired once again, Mecha and Sonic have a final conversation about the value of one's existence. It isn't success or failure, but the courage to keep moving forward. This story is truly everything Mecha Sonic deserved and more. And while the comics are considered canon, it's still argued plenty in the community, especially because the continuity issues with one another. But if you look at the story in a bubble, it doesn't mess with the timeline, so if you're one of those people who don't view the comics as canon, maybe make just one exception. And until Sega actually decides to do something with this character again, this is the conclusion for Mecha Sonic Mark II. And maybe that's okay. I want to take a moment to appreciate everyone behind the book, but most especially the story's writer, Daniel Barnes. His work on the IDW comics is simply impeccable, with him seeming to have a really good understanding of the characters he writes. I'm gonna stop and just blab about the many aspects of the story I just really appreciate, with its obvious connections to other media, with many parts pulling from Toy Story, such as the ending in the incinerator, and the Badnik's design seeming to be based off of Sid's toys. I also really like the reference to metal from the Sonic OVA, and really shows the difference between the two of them, with them both refusing Sonic's help. But where Metal rather accepts his death and side with Sonic, Mecha accepts the fact that he can grow and even change. That he doesn't have to be perfect to still be great. I especially like the detail through the story showing how truly advanced he is even in his dilapidated state, both through his strength and his intellect as well, with him using Eggman's failures and still seeing its potential. Almost like it's a metaphor or something. And the way they show his trauma through the machinery glitching out is simply beautiful. And I'd be a fool not to mention the fact they used the "I crush you" line in the story. This is everything a Mecha Sonic fan could ask for. So even if this is the end for the character, I'm okay with that. So for now, we'll just have to keep moving forward. I hope you all enjoyed this video. I've been wanting to make this for quite a while now, and I'm glad to see it finally finished. I hope that maybe it made a few of you more interested in Mecha Sonic and his many variants. Also, once again, please consider reading the story for yourself. You'd be doing yourself a real disservice by not reading it at least once. But I'm done for now. If you want more like this, consider liking, subscribing. You know the deal by now. I'll see you all later.
I'm out of here.
She's got her hair tied up in braids and glasses perched up on her face. She is a small girl taking on a big world with invention.